Okay, so seems like we're live. Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone joining us from across the globe on YouTube and live with us in on Zoom over here. So thank you very much for taking out the time and welcome to this special talk on space and generative AI organized by Clevered in partnership with Metavisionaries. So I'll be the host for this talk today. I'm Suprabha Nambiar, the head of academic operations at Metavisionaries, and with me is a very special guest today that's obviously brought all of you here to join us. Dr. James Green, the former NASA's chief scientist, who, as all of us know, has more than 40 years of work experience at NASA, being part of lots of leading groundbreaking missions that has taken the space field to next levels and inspired lots of young generations and the upcoming generations and everyone in different domains to think about a career in space. So, on that note, because we have a bit of a time constraint and we want to have as much information as possible with Dr. Green and at the same time share some interesting stories and with you about the course that we do, which is one of the main objectives of this talk. So on that note, Jim, I would like to start by just like what do you think when every time you hear a story like the first time anyone asks you, could you describe your journey of from being a student interested in space physics to becoming a NASA chief scientist?
Well, thanks so much. This is going to be a fun few minutes. Unfortunately, we can't spend a long time, but we want to be able to introduce everyone to a fabulous new world of three dimensions that one can be immersed and really begin the process of understanding space. And it turns out that's what got me excited early on was space. I was surrounded by space. Star Trek was the original Star Trek was on TV. We were going to land on the moon. I was working in an observatory at a high school. And so when I left that and went to the University of Iowa, I was going to study space. And there I met some fabulous scientists. James Van Allen taught me how to do basic research, and I was really hooked. And what we'd like to do today is use this venue, this 3D venue, along with some of the latest techniques in artificial intelligence to really be able to learn about space and what we do in space, how important it is that we remain in space. We cannot, as a species, survive without the activities that are going on in space and awareness of where our planet is going and what is happening to it over time. So, once again, thanks so much for attending. Supra, back to you.
Thank you, Jim. So yeah, I mean, it's just starting with a conversation because, well, I've been working with you for more than half a decade, or I think half a decade, yeah. And a lot of your talks that I have been part of and had the opportunity, you've shared some amazing stories with all the students and participants that had the opportunity. So we're here before we dive into some more interesting facts. So everyone, I would like you to share about your diving experience. Like you've done 150 diving dives for training the astronauts, in the
Yes,
yeah. So if you could share with us
sure, of
more
course.
about that, I'm sure everyone over here would be curious to know about that as well.
Well, once I got my PhD at the University of Iowa, I had actually many job offers. I took a job at Marshall Space Flight Center as a government employee. We call that a civil servant. And that exposed me to all kinds of new things that I had never thought of. Now, while I was at the University of Iowa, I learned how to scuba dive, and I dove in some horrible things, in terms of visibility, lakes and rivers, really low visibility things, quarries. And so, not being able to look down and see my feet never bothered me in these environments. And so when I was at Marshall Space Flight Center, I had an opportunity to tour it, and they had this huge water tank. It was 70 feet across, 40 feet deep, full of water, and they had astronauts and engineers that would be in spacesuits that would go into the tank and learn how to do extravehicular activities. So in space, if you build the space station, you're going to be outside connecting things, building things. How do you do that? What are the things that you do that enable the whole structure to come together? Well, they practice that in a water tank. And they have the suited subjects are in complete suits. They're either in Apollo suits or they were in shuttle suits. So since I dove in Iowa, I just decided, oh, I have to get in this tank and participate in another part of NASA, which was human exploration. As a scientist, I was analyzing spacecraft data, but this gave me an opportunity to really understand what was happening as humans explore space, up close and personal by doing it. So I had a wonderful time doing that.
So I'm sure that's going to interest a lot of viewers over here and also everyone watching us on YouTube that, okay, you should definitely consider learning scuba diving. You never know, it ends you up with a career in space domain. So yeah. And like everyone over here, you're aware of the fact that, yes, Dr. Green, under his leadership in he held different positions. He was part of the missions like, you know, like the New Horizon, the Juno mission, the Mars Science Laboratory mission of Curiosity. So, my question to you, Jim, is that like you've been in the center of NASA's most exciting planetary missions, and is there like one mission or discovery that you really, that like for you really changed how we think our place in the solar system is?
Uh, what happens in each of our missions is they're doing something tremendously important and very exciting. And I always really enjoyed that. I really got connected. I really found that each mission has its own excitement. And I got wrapped up in everything from flying by Pluto and looking at that wonderful, beautiful object, smaller than the moon, but has an atmosphere, believe it or not. It has glaciers of nitrogen on the surface. I mean, it snows tholins at the equator. I mean, and they're not white; they're red. And the diversity of what's happening in the solar system, from the fast winds on the gas giants to the hot surface of Venus. So each mission had its own fantastic things. And so I can't tell you which one I like better because they're all different and they're incomparable in the sense that they give us a wonderful view to something going on that we had no idea of until we got there and took a good look at it.
Right. I agree. Yeah. And I think that's what has always helped humans go into the next exploration when it comes to the space domain. So I'm sure a lot of our students are curious about life beyond Earth. And not as students, but everyone across the globe. That's like a common topic around
Sure,
a coffee table, right? So
sure.
from all the missions and everything, data that space agencies collect, how optimistic are you that we might find signs of life somewhere in our lifetime, like aliens or like really that kind of thing?
Well, extraterrestrial life are still what we call alien life.
Yeah.
There are groups that are looking for intelligent alien life, extraterrestrial intelligent life. Even NASA's doing that. We're looking at measuring what's happening at planets orbiting other stars. Now, this is just an unbelievable change that's going on in this particular area. And to give you an idea of what I mean, when I graduated at the University of Iowa, there was no hope of being able to find a planet around a star. No hope. But we kept
Okay.
working at it, coming up with ideas, figuring out how to do it. And the eclipse method, or also called the transit method,
Yeah.
turned out to be the best approach. And when we implemented it on a mission called Kepler,
Yeah.
which initially started in planetary science, we began to find planets all over the place. In fact, we now know there are more planets than there are stars in the Milky Way, which is really pretty an astounding concept. We see the stars because they shine light, but we don't see the planets unless we use special telescopes, and we're starting to develop more and more of those. Now, within the solar system, I think the best chance of us finding life will be probably small microbial life that may have existed on the planet Mars.
Right.
And we have samples that we've made with the Perseverance rover, also one of the rovers that I helped conceive and develop. And now it's operating on the surface of Mars for the last couple years, and it is making fabulous measurements and seeing things that could indicate microbial activity, past microbial activity. So we've taken samples, and now we just need to bring them back and put them in our laboratory. Now, I think even the concept of ancient microbial life is really fascinating for the simple reason if we can find that in the samples we bring back that were made by Perseverance on Mars, it tells us that life must be everywhere. Microbial life, in particular, may be very easy to generate on planets. And it happens that over time, evolution then creates ever more complex living objects that develop into intelligent beings like us. That's
Yep.
what happened here on Earth. Now, it
Right.
didn't happen on Mars,
Mm.
but we'll see. We'll see if we can find some microbial life on Mars, and that will be astounding.
Sure, definitely. And I mean, that is an ongoing search, like you mentioned. And on that note, given that over the past half decade, we can say there has been like significant surge in the number of space missions and everything across the globe, different space agencies. However, it's always like a thing, kind of an space economy. When we talk about that, it's a very abstract concept for a university student or a school student. So how would you explain what space economy is and where the opportunities are for the young people who are interested to, venture into a career of space?
Well, we're seeing that the space economy, in terms of companies going into space and using the environment of space to create new and exciting products, and that for which they can market and make a profit, would be that big
University.
step called space economy. And so, consequently, that's what's happening today. We have several companies building space stations that in the next several years will go up. Now, what will happen in these space stations? Well, NASA's performed more than 3,000 experiments on its space station, and it's been up for 25 years. Think about that. Many of you that are listening today may not even be 25 years old, but that means that during your entire life, there's been somebody living and working in space. What did they find out in space? Well, they found out that space is a wonderful place to do a whole variety of things, such as grow organs. We can grow a heart in space, taking some stem cells, Can't grow it on Earth because gravity will collapse it. The heart has got many ventricles and air spaces where it brings in blood and pumps blood, does all these kind of things. But we indeed can do that in space, and we're moving towards that. Why is that important? Well, right now, if you had a heart transplant, you have to take massive amounts of drugs to be able to fool the body that this foreign object you want to keep, not kill. And so, consequently, if you grow a heart that uses your stem cells, your body will not reject it, and that gives you a much longer lifespan and a much more quality life. And that's just one really small aspect of what's going on in space. We can grow crystals perfectly in space. We can create drugs in space for which they are so pure and connected so perfectly that the prescription would be taking much less of the drugs than we do today. And therefore cutting down on possibilities of becoming addicted to some of these opiates. So there's just a myriad of things, and it's all about companies going into space, making products, and being able to make a profit selling those products. And I think we're going to start seeing that in the next several years.
Sure, definitely. And yeah, before we proceed further, I just want to remind everyone who's joined us that you can share your questions in the chat so that when we move to the Q&A, we'll take your questions from the chat, and or else we'll also ask you to speak to us directly. Okay, so moving on to that note, so as you all get to know now that yes, okay, you have a possibility, a very clear possibility of having a career in space, space tourism, the commercial space, everything is booming at a very fast pace. So it's only about finding the right place and opportunities with the skill sets that you develop over the years to enter into the field. And with that note, now we will enter into the segment where we will walk you also through the space and generative AI course. Now, what it is exactly, how it benefits the students, how it works, and things like that. And a few, as we go through it, Jim would also be sharing his views on how AI is now currently influencing the space domain. And on that note, to begin with, Jim, as you already seeing like how AI is growing every day, not even like weekly or monthly, and the influence that it's having on literally every domain. So, especially
It
when we
is.
say generative AI, is it making a real difference in space science and missions, or is it just very much at the surface for the common people?
Well, NASA has been using a variety of automation and AI techniques on its missions over many years. You have to realize that planets are very far away, and it takes light several minutes for it to travel from that planet to Earth. Now, what's in the light would be communication. We communicate to our rovers using radio waves, which is a form of light, and so it can only travel so fast. Mars is between 4 minutes and 22 minutes away, one light travel time. And if you want to communicate with a rover, you have to go double that. So that means we have to create commands and give it to the rover and the rover to execute. And we expect the rover to stay out of trouble. It had to land on its own. The rovers have to land on their own. They have to, the last one, Perseverance, as it was landing, looked down and saw that the area it was landing was too rough. And so it actually made a divert maneuver on its own and landed at a completely different location than what we had originally planned. That's pretty fantastic. And it's landed safely. So these kind of automated software elements and AI techniques are going to be more and more used in our missions. The key is that we allow the rovers some latitude to be able to do things. We can tell the rover, we want you to be, we're all going to go home tonight and get some sleep. We're operating the rover all day long. And when we come back in the morning, we want you um, 50 meters away. We want you at this other location. And when they get in the morning, there it is. Now, how it got there,
Okay.
it figured out on its own.
Yeah.
So, more and more of these techniques are being used all over the place in missions, and it's not just planetary missions. There's a lot of missions that will, uh, in the future, take data, analyze the data on board, figure out what the most important elements are, and then send that data back to the user that built the satellite. And so we're going to see more and more of that over time. And then, of course, there'll be robots. We can't go to Mars with humans without
Yeah.
help from robots.
Robots.
Robots
Yeah.
will be there to help in many different ways. And we can spend all day talking about some of those, but that's why we have classes on what's happening in space and where AI fits in, and then learn how to use these techniques as they're coming along today.
True, that's right. So, I mean, to support what Jim said, that's definitely what we aim at doing through these courses that we've been delivering now for more than a year in the Space and Generative AI course. And even though it's students between the age of 11 to 18 who have joined us so far, and I think we've had like more than 30 students who've done this course. And we have seen ourselves exponentially the improvement in their knowledge, the use of the skills that they learn through the course, and the way they interlink the space topics. I mean, every final presentation we have been mind blown with the students' presentations, and the topics that even the way they pick from your lectures, like it's not even the whole thing. Sometimes it's just a small segment, and then they make a whole
Of course.
project out of it and using AI. So I guess you're right. The whole AI and generative AI and learning how to use it in the right way, it's quite streamlined, but to know how to use it, customize it so that your product is your product and things like that is what we teach through the course. More on the course. So initially we thought what we would do is we'll play a short video with you guys to show you, okay, what kind of lectures do we deliver, right? But we thought, okay, why not just give you all joining us with us here in the session and on YouTube, a live experience of the virtual reality platform. So now Jim is going to join me in the metaverse, which is our virtual reality platform where we do our lectures with the students. And today we're going to the Martian surface, and you're gonna see a very the Perseverance doing a very cool experiment. And yeah, well, Jim is going to explain the rest of it. So, Jim, I'll see you over there, and I'll just share my screen in a moment.
Very good.
Okay. So Jim, if you could mute your mic on Zoom so that, it doesn't pick up the double sound.
It's muted.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. You see me in the background. This is Perseverance, who has landed on the surface. Um, we're looking at a view that's being done by Supra. Now I'm going to send a command to the rover, and it'll do its thing. In the meantime, Supra is taking a look around this area. Now this area is has been an ancient river valley. It poured into a huge crater, and you can see some aspects of the crater wall. We have um, series of rocky material all around us, and we want to create a sample and be able to encase that sample in a metal sleeve, if you will, and then put it on the ground or hold it on the rover until it's retrieved and then put in a rocket for later return. So here we go. Uh, Perseverance is going to now completely in an automated fashion. We were talking about AI software. This is an aspect of what happens on Mars. We have said we want a sample of this rocky material. Not sure what it is. It may be been thrown out in an impact in the crater, and there it is. So we're going to first zap it with a laser, and the laser, you can see the dust coming off. That dust is then hot. It glows, and because of that, we then can take a spectrum of it. Now the scientists look at that and say, okay, let's go over and now get a sample. So it's going to extend its arm, and here it goes, and begin the process of drilling in the rock. Now it's encased that sample in a sleeve. The sample ends up being created in the rock by a drill that's a circular drill, and it creates a sample that looks like a large Crayola crayon. So that's now ready to be returned from Earth. And so this is just an exciting opportunity for us to really get in and watch this process, see what the rover is doing, and talk about how these things are done. And once again, some of this is done in an automated fashion. Now the rover is a very tall rover. It's taller than I am. You can see me in the frame, and in fact, I can walk over to the rover, and you can see that when we're all together with our avatars in this frame, we can then see um, how these things work up close and really get a good idea as to what happens on another planet. And we do this not only with these rovers, but with many other things. We have more than 2,000 objects. We have a classroom, which is a spacecraft that orbits the Earth. We also have spacecraft that we can bring in. Super is bringing in something now. Let's see what she's bringing in.
Yeah, I just thought that I could show maybe an element or two. And I think, okay, some of your participants are getting a bit curious and think you can access the elements right now. No, actually, because I'm doing a screen share and I'm getting requests. So I request you kindly to not try to send me the request to access the screen because it's basically another platform and you'll have to be there to see or go around it. So at the moment, like as you can see, we have, like Jim was mentioning, we have various satellites and rovers, and which is what we use during the lecture. Should I bring in Rosetta, Jim?
Sure, you can bring in
Yeah.
Rosetta.
Okay. And I'll just
As you
okay.
can see,
So
Rosetta is a very large spacecraft.
yeah, and as you can see, so we can like yeah.
This is not a NASA spacecraft, it's a European Space Agency spacecraft. However, NASA has several experiments on board,
Yeah.
and it has gone to a comet called Churyumov-Gerasimenko, and we
Yeah.
have a fabulous view of that. We can also go to other asteroids. We can go to the Apollo 11 site. We can go to other locations on Mars. We can go to the location where Curiosity is in Gale Crater. And so this is really forms a really important element of immersion and really allowing all our students to be able to see what happens and experience it. Now, it turns out the best way to experience it is indeed with a virtual reality headset. Now, a virtual reality headset is like this one.
Yeah.
This is my headset that I use. As you see, your view is going to be inside the metaverse, so you don't need to look out anywhere else.
Yeah.
But for those students that have a virtual reality headset, you can experience the full three-dimensional views and get into the metaverse, as several of us do. For those that don't, but still can experience the next level of what we just did, which would be to walk around and participate, but look around and see what's happening. You still can get a good feeling for these things, but your avatar will be there. You can interact, your avatar can interact with other avatars, but you'll just do that on a two-dimensional screen, just like we did today. But the best indeed is if you have a virtual reality headset, then the metaverse becomes really an exciting place, far more exciting than you can imagine until you really experience it.
True. And like Jim mentioned, of course, the Oculus helps you enhance the experience. However, if you do not have that, you don't have to worry that, oh, okay, then I'm not going to be able to enjoy the course.
Right.
No, definitely. As long as you have any form of electronic gadget, like a laptop or a tablet, phone as well, but we wouldn't suggest a phone because the interface won't be as good as it would be on a laptop or a tablet. So you could use that as we've joined right now and, be in actual atmospheres where we do the lectures and the experiments and things like that. So, on that note, to continue, because as we are approaching the end of the session and we would like to answer as many questions as possible, one of the things I think there was like a confusion going on in the chat, which is like, okay, what are we doing? And this is, we were just showing, like, to give you a glimpse of how the online lectures happen. That's a platform. It's a virtual reality platform called Engage, where the metaverse is set up. And we have, as Jim mentioned, we have almost more than 30 different locations, and then the different more than 500 to 1,000 elements, which we use to teach the students, like with live explanation with the actual satellites and probes and rovers and everything. It's not just like a Zoom lecture, you're sitting and you're watching some notes and that's it, right? So it's real experience, like you're actually on a lunar surface or a Martian surface or even an asteroid surface. And or maybe there's like a dome outside the Earth, like a virtual classroom which is set up on in the outer space. So that's what you saw right now, a small bit of it. And with that, we will now start with the Q&A. And I can see, like, okay, the chat has been quite active over here. And I'm also happy to see some of our students from our previous batches who also joined in just to hear, because,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
it's
Good.
always interesting to hear Jim talk. I mean, um, having worked with him for so many years, even I do not get enough of his talks. So
Okay.
thank you to all the students who've joined us. And before we so I'm gonna do is we're gonna take some of the questions and then also try to answer some very necessary questions that people do ask for if it benefits them doing the program, right? Because it's like a 12-week program, like one session a week, and throughout the 10 weeks, sorry, not 12 weeks, 10 weeks, there are lectures related to space environment, space robotics, planetary science, astrobiology, and also AI applications. So, like, and from the basics. So, let's say you do not know coding or you do not know anything about AI, that's completely fine because we teach everything from the basics. And even if you're completely new stranger to both the subjects, that's fine. By the end of the course, you would be quite equipped with a lot of information related to space and AI. So, on that note, I would like to also ask you, Jim, one thing, which is like, um, if because you have been mentoring a lot of these programs, not just the space and generative AI ones, the other a lot of other programs that you do, and in your point of view, like which is the most important skills and mindset that this program helps the student to build for their future career in space or AI or STEM?
Well, what we want to do is we want to give you a broad view of what's going on in space research. Also, we want to be able to allow you to learn some of the latest technologies in AI in terms of producing and complementing your skills to allow you to be more professional in the future. But these things have to be done in a way that you use them appropriately. You want to be able to determine if you've gotten input from ChatGPT or something else, whether it's correct or not. You can't believe everything you see or
True.
read. And so you have to approach things analytically. But the other thing that's really important is all these are new experiences. All these are things that you want to learn. And if you have the drive to learn it, you will do well, not only in the course, but in your future life. So, being exposed to new activities and then learning how to use them correctly is really an important process that once you master that, things that'll come up in the future, you'll be able to handle much more easily with much less stress and fold it into your life in the way that you want and in the way that you need.
Right. So on that note, I'm sharing with everyone a Google form. Everyone who's with us on Zoom and everyone who's joining us from YouTube as well, you can see the link in the description, and it helps us to know your thoughts and also your interest, whether you would like to join us for the course. And on that note, I'd like to begin with the questions because, oh my God,
Sure.
it's a series of questions and it's a lot of it is quite fun and interesting. So
All
I'm
right.
gonna go from the very beginning one. So there is one participant who's joined us and he's curious. I don't know, it's a he or a she, but the person is curious about the star Betelgeuse that is undergoing a supernova explosion. Could you share some more info about that with
Well,
us?
it's evolving. This is a very large star, much larger than our sun, and so it will end up becoming a nova, which means sometime in its future, it will change the way it generates energy on the inside, and that rearrangement ends up collapsing the star. But as the star collapses, it can only get so small, and then the outer layers come down to a particular area and bounce off the interior. And therefore, then they grow, the star grows huge, and then some of that material is flung into space. And if it's done violently, it's a nova. If it's done so violently that other parts of the layers, not just the outer layer, but many of the layers of the star, also are blown out, then we'll call it a supernova. Now, Betelgeuse is still evolving. It is changing in brightness. Now, that typically means it's going through an evolution, but it could also mean that there's dust that comes in and reflects the light from the surface, making it only appear that it is changing in brightness. We're not quite sure yet, but we do believe that Betelgeuse is towards the end of its life and it will explode. It is about 600 light years away, as I remember, which is very far away. We shouldn't be worried about effects from that star if it does go to a nova or supernova phase affecting us. But indeed, it's a beautiful object of interest. It's a huge star. If it sat in our solar system, it'd eat up all the interior planets, even out to Mars. So it's just a huge star.
Thanks, Jim. And thank you to the participant who asked us this question. And I can see you asked a series of other interesting questions. However, these questions would actually be answered in more detailed format if you were to join the course. So, I mean, can life survive on Mars? How can astronauts survive in extreme UV radiation of sun? So, we're not going to get into the lecture format of it, but we'll try to answer some interesting questions as possible. Okay, another one is that are wormholes actually, do they exist according to physics and NASA, and are parallel universes real?
So we don't know if parallel universes are real. We believe wormholes exist because the mathematics tells us that, but we haven't found one yet. All right. A lot of what we do in astrophysics is based on the results of mathematics. Einstein's equation E equals mc squared is just such a wonderful equation that tells us there's a relationship between energy and matter that extends all the way back to the original start of the universe, called with a theory we call the Big Bang. But it also is the same equation that's used to determine how stars shine based on processes that occur at the very interior of the star, taking mass and creating energy from that. And that produces eventually the light that we see from all of our stars. So, in general, a lot of these things are believed to exist. They do mathematically exist, and although we haven't found everything, that's the status of a black hole. 50 years or so ago, black holes were doubted. We didn't know they existed. Even Einstein didn't think they existed. But the mathematics said that there is these singularities that occur. So something must be happening there that the term black hole was created. And it turns out we've been now finding black holes and imaging them. So I think it's a matter of time. If the equations tell us this is going on, we should take that in and go look for it and determine if the mathematics are done correctly and that these objects can be found. Okay?
Yep, of course. I hope that answers your question. And I'm sure it would have surged more of your curiosity related to the topic. So, yeah, um, do join us to learn more through the course. Another interesting, well, a very simple question is how long do scientists take to build a rocket?
Ah, well, the rockets can be put together pretty quickly, but it is the things on the rockets, like spacecraft and rovers, that take several years to build. Perseverance, the rover we saw in the virtual reality platform that we had on Mars, that went ahead and worked and did all the drilling. That particular rover took about 6 years to make. Okay, I started that when I was head of planetary, and although I left and became chief scientist before we launched it, it was well on its way of being made, and the launch vehicle worked perfectly and delivered the rover to the top of the atmosphere, and then it landed safely and has begun working on the surface for the last more than a year and a half or so.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I guess that answers, well, rockets can be put together quickly, but as he explained, it takes its pace and time in different ways. Another question that we have is so what's the biggest scientific risk and biggest scientific opportunity in integrating AI into mission operations? That's a question from
Yes.
apparently one of our previous students who's joining us today.
Well, it turns out that's happening right away. I think there is an approach where we're being cautious on allowing AI to manage our spacecraft. AI can be used to interpret a variety of data and send us alerts. That's a good use for it. It can do it far quicker than we can. That's a good service for it. The ability for AI to make constant measurements and then decide what's the most important things and send that back to us. That's a good use for it, particularly when we test it and make sure that it is indeed sending the most important things back to us. Everything that we implement in artificial intelligence, we need to test and look at carefully before we then implement. And we implement it in phases and making sure that it's working all along the way in each and every one of those steps.
Okay, so now we know how it's impacting, and definitely through the course, that's also one of the things that we teach about AI, how it influences, and also the ethics part of it and things like that. So that's why we are here to talk about the course and why it's beneficial and why all of you should consider joining for the course. Moving on to another question, and I think the person has been asking this multiple times before I asked that. I can see some of you are again asking, like, which was that platform which we were using, the virtual reality platform. So it's called Engage VR. You can Google it. They give you free access. You have to install the application or your desktop or tablet, whichever it is that you use, and create an account, create your own avatar, and then you can go to different locations. There are free sessions as well that you can attend. However, of course, the ones that you saw, because there are customized locations and elements and things like that, which we have created in Metavisionaries for delivering the courses. So if you do not see what you saw today over there in the free version, don't be surprised. The free version has its own things. We have our customized elements as well for delivering the course. So I hope that answers a lot of people's question about the platform. The question that a student has for you, Jim, is how do astronauts survive harmful UV radiations from the sun when they are doing the spacewalk?
When they do a spacewalk, they are in a protective suit, and that suit has to provide them temperature control. When they work, you can be overheated very quickly, and so you actually are wearing a close knit underwear that has water that circulates, and that water circulates in a way that cools you, and you have temperature control. So as you work hard and you get hot, you can be cooled. The suit also provides you oxygen to breathe. We don't breathe carbon dioxide, we take oxygen and create carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is poisonous to us if we get too much of it. And so the spacesuits actually identify that carbon dioxide and take it out of the suit. so that you're constantly breathing oxygen. The visor that you have is typically gold tinted, and it's tempered such that it will inhibit the UV radiation from getting in, and so you're literally in a very protective environment. So the suit is your world. The suit is your atmosphere. The suit is your ability to live and work in space because everything in space is very harsh. The outside temperature on the day side is very hot, several hundred degrees. On the night side, it's more than 100 degrees below zero. And so you go through these huge temperature swings, and the suit has got to be able to accommodate that by providing you a constant survivable temperature. So spacesuits are really a marvel.
Right.
So that's how we use them.
Okay, and I think that's what the participant was looking for. They knew the answer was spacesuit, but they wanted to know more about the context. So
Sure,
thank you, Jim,
sure,
for explaining
sure.
that part. Okay, so we are like almost towards the end of the session. And so if you have any interesting questions you want to ask, feel free to, because I'd be taking a few more questions and then we will be winding the session. Also, I've been sharing the link with all of you in the chat. So kindly do share with us your reply because it helps us enhance for the future talks as well. Coming back to the questions, what do you think may be the future of robots in space exploration, and what type of robots does NASA seek exactly?
Well, we won't go to Mars with humans without robots, and there'll be several types of robots. There'll be robots that can perform certain functions. If you're in a habitat on the surface and something happens outside, you send a robot right off the bat, and they will go out and they will go to where the problem is. Maybe it's a leak in the exterior, and maybe they have to find it or look for what happened. Maybe it was an impact of a meteor that came down. All these kind of things happen. So robots have the ability also to be very strong. If you're out in an EVA suit with a robot and you're repairing something, you could ask the robot to hold up a panel while you're working away. And so they can easily do these kind of things. So the mechanical aspect is an important part. Integrating that with intelligent software enables the robot to perform a whole variety of functions. So in the habitat, the robot is going to be measuring many things, like the amount of CO2. If you have a lot of CO2, people are breathing in the habitat, the robot can send an alert. Hey, we need the scrubber to get the CO2 out of our habitat and keep the air breathable and safe for everyone. The robot can also um, monitor temperature, your pressure,
Mhm.
but also your heart rate. And so many different medical things it can analyze, bring in, and determine if you're under stress or not. And once that happens, then we know there are things that we can do to lower the stress. So those things are just some fantastic abilities for artificial intelligence and particular robots to be able to aid us in future exploration. Now, those things that I mentioned, we know robots can do. Have we built them to do that? Some aspects of that. Is there more things that we need to do? Oh, yeah. I mean,
A
there's
lot of
so
it.
many things that,
Yeah,
yeah, there's so many things we have left to do in that area.
definitely.
So it's a huge area for
Yeah.
us to be able in the future to build these kind of robots to help support our missions in the future. Big, big
Definitely.
business.
And yeah, and I think that's what I mean. One of the topics, one of the lectures, which is on space robotics, where you also teach the students in detail about the different mission and how like different robots with the different functionalities have
Right.
helped humans succeed various space missions. And of course, to everyone listening to us, that robotics, like many other fields, has its benefits. And if you are studying about it or want interested to go into it, you should definitely consider. Science is always enhancing and growing. So yeah, there are a lot of things to yet discover and develop on that side. Taking one last question, because that's kind of
Oh,
like
that's
being
good.
repeated multiple times,
Okay.
which
All
is,
right.
what if the sun disappeared? Like, what would the earth stop rotating, or what would happen to the earth?
Well, the Earth has its own angular momentum, so it will keep spinning.
Yeah.
Okay. But if the sun just absolutely disappeared, then the ability for us to orbit the area that the sun is at is due to its mass. And if it's gone, we'll start floating away. All the planets will end up moving out in trajectories uh, for which, when the sun was eliminated, uh, they will go in different areas, in different places. Now, the sun provides us an enormous amount of energy, enormous amount of heat. The planet will start to freeze rather quickly. The atmosphere of our planet will more than likely, some of it collapse, meaning it will start to snow quickly as everything then begins to become very frozen. So it's not what we would expect to happen. It's something that is a nice thought experiment, but indeed the sun is going to be there for the next 5 billion years, and I think we can count on that.
And sure, we will
Okay.
not be there. So, everyone in this session, don't worry about that at all. As we approach towards the end of the session, so we would just like to share with you is that the objective of this talk, as we mentioned from the start, was to definitely talk a lot about space and Jim's journey and his experiences, and how you can consider a career, irrespective of your background, in space domain. And how this course helps is not just that you're learning about space topics or about the AI topics, how to use the AI applications and things like that, but like bringing it together, integrating it, and also communication. Because at the end of it, like when you have to present what it is that you creating, and it all comes down to storytelling. And why do we want to keep listening to Jim? It's because his skill set of the way he narrates thing, it doesn't make us like feel that science is boring. On the contrary, it
Oh,
makes us
it's
want to
not.
ask more questions. Exactly.
Sure, of course.
So Jim, before we wind up, just I just want to know, because as we while we've delivered this course for more than a year, and we've had students from across the globe, and also sometimes from countries which were undergoing conflict, they were having difficulties and
Yeah.
everything. So for some of so for all those participants from different countries or schools where like space career feels very far away, because yes, it's the space domain is not yet developed in that way, what would you say to a student who dreams of working in space or AI and it feels still out of reach? What would your feedback be to that person?
Well, when I started in this area, and I had the luxury of living in a country that had a space program, the United States. And at that time, there were only a few other countries that had space programs. The Russians had one, the Japanese had one, the European Space Agency was coming together. But today, there are more than 75 countries with space programs. So first, I would start out, there's 192 countries, I think, in the world. So more than a third of them then have these kind of environments where you can learn, grow, and work in your own country, supporting the space activities that is in your own space agency. So I would check that first. Then, if your country doesn't have a space program that you can join, there's always internships. So as you get your degrees, and you become knowledgeable in certain areas you can apply all over the world to various places. I know NASA takes foreign interns. I've had several interns from many different countries over the years. In fact, my first one was from England, and even at that time, England had a space program. So there are still those options for everyone, but don't give up because many countries now are joining NASA to go to the moon through what's called the Artemis Accords. And
Yeah.
not all those countries that are joining NASA to go and support efforts of putting humans back on the surface of the moon have space programs. So there's just a number of things like that. So check the Artemis Accords if your country's there. Then they're going to be involved in space more and more. Check and see if your country has a space program and what are the things that they do. Some build satellites that are huge, some build satellites that are small. Some are only interested in observing the Earth, but some are actually joining others and going to various places and other planets. So it's an exciting time, and I encourage you to check it out.
True. So, on that note, we would like to thank everyone who took out the time to join us today, irrespective of your time zone, and listen. And we hope to see you in one of our upcoming courses if you want to learn more about the topics and also how you can enhance your skill set, which would, in the end, help your own career develop in a way. So, and I say this because I have a linguistic and science background, and I've worked in the mainly in the linguistic profession initial part of my career, and then over the last half decade, I came into the space field. So, if you're thinking that, oh, you need to have a technical background, no, there are non-technical works as jobs as well that is required in the space domain, and that's where all kinds of people are required, from engineers, physicists to lawyers, designers, architects, even chefs. So, on that note, Jim, one last
Sure.
message for everyone listening to us, be it students, working professionals, um, or the upcoming generation, that is about the future of space and AI and their role, like everyone who's going to be contributing their role in it. What would it be? One message if you would want to share.
Ah, so learning these things, even though we're using the emphasis of space, doesn't mean you can't apply them if you don't go into space.
Yeah,
And so these are important skills no matter what.
true. On that note, thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are. And we'll see you another time at another webinar. Or if you're joining our course, definitely for longer durations, you'll have the opportunity to study with Jim and our other AI engineers who help you develop those skills. Thank you very much. See you
Thank
later.
you. Bye now.
Okay.